Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
So the topic is Naam Simran, which is really at the very heart of Sikhi. Guru Sahib, Sikhi has been described as Naam Marg. In traditional Indian philosophy, there are three ways to reach union with God. There's Karam Marg, Gyan Marg, and Bhakti Marg. And Sikhi is Naam Marg, which kind of includes all three of those. It's a very holistic process. Although the closest to Bhakti Marg are the traditional guys, but it's kind of includes everything. So as Gurbani tells us, Nanak ke ghar keval Naam. So the house of Nanak or Sikhi is all about Naam. That's really all there is.
How is it different from Bhakti Vijay?
Well, the Gurbani tells us a lot more about actions also, about gun and all that.
Got it.
And Gyan, of course, Gurbani itself is Gyan. That Gurbani is so important to us. We have to follow the Guru and take the Gyan. So it's all three of them really.
So when you talk of Naam, Naam is an all-encompassing term. It includes reading of Gurbani, understanding it, and also Naam Simran, everything.
Exactly. And we'll get into more, but yeah, you're right, exactly. So the Guru tells us that the whole purpose of life is to seek union with Vaheguru through Naam Simran. Bhai prapat manav devuriya, govind milan ki hai teri bariya. There's a special opportunity Vaheguru has given us to achieve that higher state of union, and it is found through Naam. Avar kaj tere kitna kaam il sad sangat bhaj keval Naam. Nothing else is as important as Naam Simran. And this message is repeated in many Shabdas and Gurbani. The most important purpose of life is to follow this path of this Naam Marg. And it's so important that Gurbani has a lot of passages about how useless life is without Naam. Marna jaye jana visrat ram, very strong language. Naam bihun jivan kaun kaam. Without Naam, what's the point of life, he says. Naam bina nahi jiya jaye, bade bhaag gurmukh ke paye. It's not really life, we are like spiritually dead if you don't have Naam. So Guru is saying. So just to emphasize how critical it is and how it is central to Sikhi. So what is Naam? Anybody want to tell me briefly what you think Naam is, since it is so important?
I think this Guru is not.
It's essence of the Creator. The
Naam always stay in tune with Vaheguru, always thinking of him all the time.
Because many people, if you ask them, they'll say Naam, oh, it's saying Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. That's part of it, but it is all of these other things that you are saying. So Naam is, the literal meaning, of course, of Naam is name. And a name is a way you refer to somebody. You have somebody's name. That's what I've heard it described as Akhri Naam, just the word itself, the name. But the name points to something and it gives you some sense of what that is. You have an idea, some concept in your mind. When you use name, you're thinking of someone. And I've seen that described as Suksham Naam. So there's Akhri Naam, which is just the name, and then Sukham Naam, which is the deeper Naam. But there's more to it as we'll come to it than just that. So just while we are on Akhri Naam, आ जाओ फिर आ जाओ अंदर
हाँ जी
आगे आ जाओ
खाना पाएगा one by one
थोड़े आगे हो जाओ
चलो फिर उसी रख दो
tables are too close together. So we were just talking about the meaning of Naam from the literal word point of view. So literally Naam comes from name, which is something we use to refer to something. And we will call that the Akhri Naam. And then there's the what that points to, what it makes us think of, the image we have in our mind, what we mean when we say. If we say table, we may talk about this table, but when we think table, we think of the common characteristics of all tables. What's the essence of a table? It's something flat with legs and so on. So it is some deeper sense of what that word means. So that's kind of the origin of the word, and then
So
we'll get
Akhri
into
Naam and the second you said was?
Suksham Naam.
Suksham.
I've heard some places, I've seen
So
these
that's-
words used.
So that means
Not in
subtle,
Gurbani.
right? Subtle.
Yeah, the deeper meaning. Or the subtle, yeah, the not the literal, but
Right.
the, what it means in your mind. Actually, there are two other words I've seen used. Akhri Naam, Suksham Naam, and then Vyapak Naam, which is the all-pervading presence of Naam. And then there's Anubhavi Naam, it's what you experience when you get in tune with it. So they're all referred to as Naam, all the different levels. And we'll get to that. But related words, while still staying on the Akhri Naam, the related words are Simran, which means comes from remembrance. Again, ties into Naam. Jap or Jap is used a lot. Jap Naam, which comes from the basic idea of repeating the word and getting in tune with something. Japna Naam, Japna. Dhyan, which talks more about the focus and the meditation or concentration.
Question, Vijay. So Naam is name or...
That's the origin of the word.
Yeah, I want to say noun, right? If
Name.
It's a noun, right? Name is a noun.
Name is a noun, but it's
Right.
also the word means a name. Yeah.
Right. So the related words, we're getting into...
We're just saying when we talk about
Action.
Naam or Naam Simran.
Oh, okay, just synonym. Okay,
I'm not,
okay.
I'm not, they're not
Okay, I'm just trying to
synonyms. They're
understand.
just words
Got
that
it,
tie into
got
that.
it, got it.
When we talk about it, what are the words?
That come up in mind.
Word level
Okay.
kind of, I'm sorry.
Can we also presume Naam to be same as God? Because Naam cannot be defined, neither can God. Will it be okay?
Yeah, we'll see, yeah, absolutely. We talk about it being the essence of it, we'll see later. Vyapak Naam, when we talk Vyapak Naam, that's an aspect of it. And we are obviously on a very similar page because we are jumping ahead on my slides. It's a good sign always, it means we are all on the same track. So there's
So we're
Dhyan.
equating the related words to Naam, right? Is
Yeah,
that-
I'm just saying Naam, what do you, yeah, the word level, there's Naam and the other words in Gurbani that kind of talk about similar things. So they're kind of around the same concept.
Some of the second words probably come more in the category of verbs that are
Yeah,
associated with
that's
noun.
what I'm
I'm not talking about the
Okay.
grammar aspect of it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just
okay, okay.
at the word level, these are, when we talk about Naam,
Synonyms. sort
Naam,
of.
Simran, they are kind of words that are
Yeah.
also used. Besides Naam, they are the
Right,
words that
right.
are used for
Right.
around the same concept.
Right, right.
Not actual synonyms, but they tie into the same
Sort of.
concept.
Yeah.
Yes, one way of defining Naam is whatever God stands for is Naam. Very briefly, I mean, summing up everything.
Mhm. That's one meaning. As we'll see,
Yeah.
Naam has many different shades of meaning.
Yeah.
And the word Shabad is used often also to mean something very similar. The word, the Shabad, the Naam. And we see these in other religions also. The both name and word show up in some of the basic philosophical concepts. Like even in Christianity, Hinduism, of course, Naam is used a lot, and Shabad. And in Christianity and the Judaic religions also, the word and name both come up a lot.
Mhm.
Like one of the 10 Commandments is don't use the name of the Lord in vain or something like that. So name is very important to them in some sense. And the word is used a lot, like the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word and the Word was God. Interpreted different ways by different people, but those are the actual words that are there. And then the word mantra is also used in this connection. Mantra, Guru Mantra, Guru Mantra, Bij Mantra. So these are some of the words out of which this comes. So it's a very broad and deep word that has many different levels of meaning and a deeper mystical meanings as well. So it's used in the ways it's used in the Sikhi, the 3 or 4 very different levels. One is it's an aspect of the divine, as several of you have said, it's an aspect of Vaheguru himself. It's a mystical, all-pervading presence or vibration of God is Naam. It's also used as a state of being or being in tune with Naam. It's used in that context also, experiencing Naam. Anubhavi Naam is the word I've seen. Anubhavi Naam is the Naam that we experience. When somebody practices Naam Simran, the experience is also Naam, Anubhavi Naam. And then the process or the techniques of achieving it, which is Naam Simran, or how do we get there, what do we actually do? And the sadhana or how do we get to that God's consciousness? And there we talk about things like Naam Japna, Naam Simran. So it's used at least 3 or 4 levels. And Bhagir Singh also says the whole process of starting from doing Naam Simran to getting in tune with him to experiencing it is all Naam. All of it is Naam. So that core meaning that we talked about is at the deepest level, Naam is the essence of Vaheguru, an aspect of the divine. And in Asa Divar, Guruji tells us, Api ne aap sajo, api ne rachyo naam, doi kudrat saji hai kar asan dit. Api ne rachyo naam, doi kudrat saji hai kar asan dit chao. So Vaheguru, he starts off in the Nirgun state and then he created all his Kudrat. But before that, in between, there is Naam in some way. So it's like this is an aspect of himself. Of course, he created himself. He created the spirit or of Naam, and used that to create Kudrat. And something like that he's talking about. So it's kind of the underlying divine vibration or presence that underlines all of Kudrat, all of creation. And it's all Vaheguru, of course, from Vaheguru himself to Naam to Kudrat, because he's in everything. So this in between Naam is kind of what is Naam. It's the Vyapak Naam. It's the Naam that pervades everything. That everything is made out of. Nothing is not Naam in that sense.
Can you explain it a little more? Apine rachyo naam. Rachyo means made. So can you please explain it a little more?
Now I've also seen this translated as Apine Aap Sajo. He created himself and then Rachyo Naam or whatever. But Rachyo means it's all his creation. I don't know whether they're
Doesn't rachyo mean imbued with, or which rasya which rachya, like a part of it?
Rachyo is also created.
Rachna, right, Rachna, yes.
He's created, fashioned it. I guess
Right,
fashioned
right,
would be the
right,
word, like architected it.
Yeah.
He created or architected or fashioned.
That's
Naam.
rasna. What I was thinking was
Rachna is kind of kuch cheez
Right.
rachi, you created and built it.
Rachyo means created.
Yeah.
That's what is the normal.
Yeah, that's what it means. Yeah, Rachyo Naam.
Rachyo naam. When you say rachyo
Created
naam,
or set it up, whatever, something like that.
because human beings put names to
But
somebody.
this now is not a name. This noun is a underlying spirit or power, the Vyapak Naam. It's the divine presence.
It's not the name.
It's the word name is used to refer to it. It's called Naam because you can't call it anything. It doesn't. When you think of Vaheguru, when you say Vaheguru, you are thinking of his creation, of what he is. You can't describe him in any way.
So in this sentence, now means whatever he created is now.
Well, he's kind of saying there's something. He created something called Naam, and then he used that to do all the creation. It's something like that he's saying. It's in steps. Dui kudrat sajya.
Now there means he created the laws of nature. Before he created the nature itself.
That's one way of, as a physicist, you can interpret it that way. Sure, it makes us, some of us will be more comfortable talking like that. Hanji. Hanji.
ਇੱਥੇ ਪੜਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੈ
Hanji.
ਕਿ ਨਾਮ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ
Right.
ਉਹਦੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਮ ਹੈਗਾ Is it right or wrong?
No, that's right too. I mean, these are mystical concepts. You can't put them in exact words, but the underlying concept is the same. कुरान ने कुछ बढ़ाया है, कोई underlying force spirit हैगी है जो हर एक चीज उस तो बनी हुई है. So सब हर एक चीज वाहिगुरु है. There's nothing that's not वाहिगुरु. So that's right.
शब्द यूज ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ
Being.
ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਗੋਡ ਦੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹੀ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ
But what is Hong?
ਹੋਂਦ means ਕਿ
Being, right?
ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗਾ
Yeah. So it's all, we are talking about the same thing, but they are, these are mystical concepts. When you talk about words, things get slippery because it can't be described in words. Words are never enough. Chahe hond keh lo, chahe spirit keh lo. It's a little bit analogous to the force of Star Wars, except it's all positive. That has negative things too, but this is in the sense of something underlying everything that's a force or a spirit or a power. Hanji, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it may have some resemblance with the Christian Holy Spirit.
Perhaps, and they have their own interpretation, but yeah, you can say that, sure. All of those are fine as long as we know what we are thinking about. You can describe it in different ways. And the point is, it is the essence of Vaheguru himself. His own essence he's putting into all of his creation. Now other words used for similar concepts include Jyot, used very similarly, and even Hukam sometimes. Everything is Hukam phaliya hoya sab paase Hukam hi chayega. So those are kind of similar aspects of that also. They are all the essence of Vaheguru and as in all of creation.
So that is the deepest meaning of Naam, as an essence of Vaheguru, and all-present, all-pervading spirit and power, energy, whatever that's underlying everything. And Guruji has described it specifically as Naam ke dhare sagle jant, Naam ke dhare khand brahmand. Everything is based on Naam. Naam is the underlying foundation of everything.
How would you describe dhare?
How would you describe it? Dhare, it's supported, I guess, or it's the foundation, it's under everything. That's how I read it.
We should go and get some more chairs.
It's okay, perfectly fine.
He looks very comfortable, it's okay.
Breathing don't matter.
बैठ के समाधि ला के नाम सिमरन कर सकते हो, ठीक है? Okay. So the reason we are having such a hard time talking about it is because, like Vaheguru itself, Naam is a gum and a gochar. It is.
Room next back. Oh, we can get more chairs. I'll get more chairs.
Okay. Should we keep going while he's doing that? Should we take a 2-minute break? Let's take a 2-minute break while they're doing it, so there isn't as much context, and you kind of have to just see what the underlying spirit is.
Inaccessible, unfathomable. Is it not saying the same thing that the God is, that the Vaheguru is, because usually in Gurbani, that I don't see come across many lines where Agamagochar comes with Naam.
It does.
It's much more Agamagochar, the Vaheguru.
You're right, and you see what it says on the top. Naam is the essence of Vaheguru. So it's like Vaheguru, Naam also is. That's why we're having trouble talking about it, because it's not something very specific. It's something mystical. Hang on a second, because there's too much noise there.
And this is Vaheguru, or God himself.
Exactly, that's what we are saying.
There's no big difference.
There's no big difference. We have said it's the essence of Vaheguru. It's an aspect of Vaheguru. It's a way of talking about Vaheguru, or one aspect of him. It's a mystical concept.
Like way of naming, like I would say, if I was to name God, there would be at least 29 ways.
Not only 29, it's millions.
I mean, I would like.
Asank
I would like to see the list of millions.
Countless. Jap Sahib, have you read Jap Sahib? Jap Sahib, every line is the name of Vaheguru.
There are not million lines.
But that's only part. But those are only what are included. Anyway, moving along.
The difficulty we are having is because Gochar means incomprehensible.
Right.
It's more than unfathomable. It's incomprehensible. So if it's something is incomprehensible, it's very difficult to define.
Exactly. It's all mystical. It's not something very physical and concrete. It's a mystical concept. I'm not going to get into defining mystical here. That itself is a...
I think it is still mystical. We started with Newton's laws of physics. They were replaced. Our understanding, as it goes deeper and deeper, we find more and more things.
Yeah, physics is becoming metaphysics now.
What universe, what was this creation? I don't think we understand it fully ever. It's just limited by our experience.
Yeah. Wow. It's good, but let's not get sidetracked too much. Okay?
We don't even understand ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So we shouldn't get, sidetracked too much into things, because this is not concrete stuff. You can't analyze it. You can only experience it, and we can talk about it, because it is Agama Gochar. That's the whole point. Okay. Hukme Reha Samai. The Naam is also an experience or a state. It refers to that in the context. At individual or personal level, it refers to that experience of being in tune with that divine presence, with Vaheguru, and that is what we strive to achieve through Naam Simran. And the ultimate goal of being at that state. Gurbani, again, this is all mystical stuff, so it's referred to in many different ways, but there are names used for it include Chautha Pad. Chautha Pad, there are 3 gunas, and Chautha Pad is beyond our normal mode. Turiya Avastha, so Sahaj Avastha kind of refers to that also. Now they all have different shades of meaning, but they really all refer to that state of being in tune with Vaheguru and experiencing Naam. And the Samdwar, body has 9 openings, and the yogis talked about a 10th opening at the top of the head. But it really comes to experiencing the divine, going beyond the body, and it's a gate through which you have transcendence. So that's why it's called the Samdwar. Now the experience itself is, again, I'll use the word mystical. It's beyond describing in words. The experience of being in tune with Vaheguru. It's been described as gunge di mithai, like somebody who can't speak. He can only smile and say, "This was wonderful, I'm enjoying it," but he can't say it, describe it. And the gurus allude to it in many ways, but they can't. Their words are never complete either, because you have to experience it to really get there. And Gurbani and the Guru's word is a way to get there, but it doesn't describe it in its entirety, because you have to get beyond the words. And Guruji says himself, it's a Katkatha. Hanji?
Comparable word probably in Africa. Something
Fine.
that is
Yeah.
so wonderfully pleasant.
That's right. So the Hanji.
Naam as experience, I would like to supplement it with a concept which is very obvious in Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Bani, and that is the musico-mystical aspect of Naam Simran. I would like to quote a very good shabad.
Okay. Hanji.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji spells out what exactly are the highest stage of Naam Simran.
Hanji.
It is the Ajapa Jap.
Right.
And the Shabad which is I want to quote is at 1291 page. Ghar mein ghar dikhai de so Satguru Purkh Sujan. And it's the longest Shabad. It ultimately then comes Ulte Kamal Amrit Bharya Ye Man Kato Na Jaye Ajapa Jap Na Visre आज जुगा समाए सब सखियां पंचे मिल गुरु निज करवास सब खोज एक कर रहे नानकता का das.
Very good, Hanji. And there are many shabads describing the experience in different ways. Also the Bhagats also express them in Vani of Kabirji and Ravidas and others. You see a lot of different, very colorful descriptions of that experience. And I didn't take the time to get those in here, because there's no end to them. There are just so many beautiful shabads describing that. But that was a very nice one, Hanji.
The other aspects actually was also referred to the Dhoni.
Anhad Shabad.
I didn't touch on those ones, but once you read that complete Shabad, you come across all these terms which are very relevant to Naam as experience.
Right. And some of the
I like to call it Naam as a
Anubhavi Naam.
mystical experience.
Yeah. So in terms of the classification, like I was saying earlier, there's Akhri Naam and Suksham Naam and Vyapak Naam, and then there's Anubhav Naam, Naam Anubhav, which is the experience of Naam, which is what all of these refer to.
And yet it's not just that.
It's not just what?
It's not just musical, mystical.
No, it's the whole Anubhav. There are different aspects of
Yeah,
it.
it's just anything you talk about is just one aspect.
Here is one aspect. Right?
Yeah, and different people have described it differently, because the experience, it's beyond words, right? So different Bhagats have expressed it in different ways, and some have expressed in terms of the images from the yoga. Some have talked about visual things like light and Jilmil Tare and things like that. Others have described music, but they're all aspects of that mystical experience of Naam.
Elephant and the 7.1.
Right. And different people experience different things too, in different ways.
The Shabad I came across recently, which I should have written down, was on page 648. I remember the page, I go back to it. I made a mental note of it. It talked about the fact that if you have Naam, then no matter what you do, whether you live in luxury or even Maya or whatever worldly life you have is totally acceptable. So,
Yes, there are shabads like that,
right?
tell you that.
So there, what does Naam mean?
It's talking about a state. When you are in tune with Vaheguru, when you're not affected by Maya, it's like floating above it.
So how I interpreted it was that when you are living in divine consciousness, right? And in remembrance of all the goodness of the Creator, all the good aspects of it, then you're not going to get into all the, the crappy behavior. And then all of this is acceptable. Is that correct? Would that be a correct interpretation?
It's part of it, yeah. See, normally we think of we shouldn't be getting into riches or clothes or fancy things and all that, and yet the gurus, because people came them, offered them, they were happy to celebrate it. They accepted great gifts. They dressed nicely and go on a nice horse, all those things. So it was okay because he wasn't. They're not being attracted by that. They're doing it just in their pleasure and to please their.
Pure while you enjoy everything.
So to get back to it as the experience, a key aspect of it is bliss, ananda. And that is a key part of the experience, joy. And Guruji talks a lot about rasanda. Though ras you think of something to drink, but the experience is like drinking something wonderful. And of course we've talked about celestial music and Anhad Shabad. That's part of the experience of experiencing something musical that underlines everything. It's also been referred to as Niranjan Jyot.
Just 1 second. Come back to the same slide. When we ask for Naam Daan Deo, basically we are begging for this experience. Basically, is that right?
Yeah, because as we get into what is Naam Simran, how do we get there, the key aspect is we do everything we have to, but ultimately it's grace. It's Vaheguru's karam, it's his blessing. Naam is a blessing.
Naam Daan Deo. That means we are
asking for
to take us to that state of mind.
Right.
Give us the blessing of Naam.
Yeah. Well, we're asking for a blessing that for our ability to do what we have to do, to make ourselves worthy of it, to do the Naam Simran, get the focus, all that, and we're also asking for the grace, Kisan over, bless kar deo. It's also been described as rain, jim jim bharse amrit dhara, varsao sade te, give us, bless us, it's that kind of thing. So as when we talk about experience, it's you can think of it as a constant spiritual high. And the Guru also uses terminology related to being drunk, intoxication. As it's described as wine, as Baba Manmat Varo Naam Ras Pive, Sehaj Rang Ras Raya. And there are many shabads that use the analogy of liquor, in fact. Although liquor is not something we are recommended to have itself, but we are supposed to be drunk on Naam instead of liquor. Now this kind of experiences, all of these are not unique to Sikhi. Almost every religious tradition has some people who have followed the mystical part of it and who have described these experiences, and it's the same thing basically. So Naam is at the core of every faith, but they all get distracted from that into rituals and dogma and religious theory and all that, and history and all that, but the core essence is this mystical experience. And many of them have like some segment that has gone after the mystical part. So the Christians have had their Christian mystics in some monasteries, but what the church doesn't have too much of that aspect of it. They've kind of gotten away from it, and they're more into the dogma and the prayer and the process. And same happens in all the religions.
Naam na japo abhag tumhara. Naam na japo abhag tumhara. Jug jug data prab ram hamara.
Sure. So yeah, so this experience is, the Sufis, of course, many of them talk about this kind of experience, about Naam Simran in some words or the other. And the interesting thing is that all the Bhagats in Gurbani, not just the Gurus, not only the 10 Gurus talk about Naam, but every one of the Bhagats talk about it. So it was there before the Gurus also. They all talk about Naam and Simran in different ways, often using the word Naam also, but certainly talking about the same concept.
On this Naam as a state, I'd like to supplement.
Anji.
It's a state of absorption that turns into ecstasy.
That's the Ananda Ras, the bliss. Anji.
Gurbani lines which are quoted in support of this are, apart from the two which you have mentioned, Baba and Naam Ras. It says, in the moment of absorption, the nectar is experienced as a ceaseless sweet shower.
Right, right. Yeah, when I was talking about grace, I also mentioned that.
To spell out what exactly the state, Naam as a state, really implies or means.
Sure. So another aspect of that state is this unitive experience, a sense of oneness, a sense of all of creation is one, everybody is one, and that's what the mystics have described also. A sense of unity.
How long does it last?
There's no fixed thing for that. No answer to that one. It varies.
Whether different people can tell.
People can stay in that state, or people in early stages you may have brief experiences. At some stage people stay in that spiritual high constantly. It becomes a part of the life. That's the ultimate goal, is to stay at that stage. Most of us would go up and down. We have a brief experience while we are doing Simran or listening to Kirtan or something. And then there are people, of course, who are at that stage. They're always in that high state. The Gurus were presumably always at that state, and the Bhagats. So is this sense of oneness, Brahm dise Brahm suniya ek ek vakhaniye. You not only think of Brahm, you see one, you experience it, but you see him in everyone also. Atam pasara karan hara prab binani janiye. It's all, everything is the creator of creation, and I don't know anything that's not God. God is in everything. And then there's sab gobind hai, gobind bin nahi koi. Ek sutman sans jaise ot pot prab soi. So there's, everything in creation is like a mala. Everything is different beads on a string, and that string underlying everything is Naam. That's what goes through everything. So everything is strung together with Naam, and that oneness of everything and everybody. And that also applies to people. So one of the part of the aspect of being there is to see Vaheguru in everybody, which is a goal, to be able to do that and to treat people accordingly. And that's the key part of the ethics of Sikhi also. Like na ko beri nahi begana sagal sangham ko banyai. It goes on to saying sab mein rav raya prab eko pek pek nanak peksai. It's saying that oneness in everything and everybody. That is also, that's the key part of this experience, spiritual experience of seeing Vaheguru in everything and everywhere. And this also, this concept of a unitive oneness experience has been described by mystics of every faith also. This sense of there's no stranger, everything is Vaheguru and everybody is Vaheguru.
On Naam as a meditation, I'd like to make a submission.
Anji. We'll come to that, but go ahead. Anji.
Later.
It's okay.
No, fine.
So if I don't cover it, then please do still, make sure you still do that. So now we get to Naam Simran. Get to the practice part of it. Did I skip something here? Yeah, okay. So what is the practice of Naam Simran at the individual level? We've talked about Naam Simran as a concept, but to get there. So some people think of it as Naam Japna, repeating or chanting his name, Guru Mantra. And there's a lot of discussion and debate about, is Vaheguru the Guru Mantra? Should we say, some people use the whole Mool Mantra, Ekonkar Satnam Karta Purak. Some people say Ekonkar Satnam Vaheguru and sing that and chant in different ways. Some people have different ways of singing it, like Ekonkar, and some of the yogis followers do that. So there are many different approaches to that. And then there's the meditation or the silence focused contemplation, going beyond chanting. And again, there are many different theories people have, or different sadhanas, different groups also that follow different leaders say it should be done a certain way, and they talk about postures, sitting a certain way. Some talk about some exercises and the exact way of doing it. Exactly how to breathe, a lot about breathing, a lot about focusing on the third eye or something like that. And all of these are meaningful, that's fine. Then there's Sifat Salah. Some people say Simran is really Sifat Salah, it's praising God, it's singing His praises, it's not just saying Vaheguru, Vaheguru. But that's the important part, is to sing His praises. And actually, some people say instead of saying a name, the important thing is attributes of Vaheguru. Think of different attributes, different aspects, His qualities. And in fact, Jap Sahib does that. It takes you through one quality after another. Hundreds of them, it takes, God is this, He is this, He is this, He is this, and that's what it all is, right? And that's all Simran also. All of that is Naam Simran in different ways. And of course, Gurbani, Path, Kirtan, they all have aspects of that. Because Naam is an integrative Naam isn't just one thing, it's an integrated, Naam Simran, the process of getting there, I'm talking about process now, what an individual does to get there. It's an integrated, in Sikh, it's an integrated holistic process, it's not just one thing. It's a process of getting in tune with the Vyapak Naam that we talked about. And Gurbani part and Nitnem, Kirtan are all very important aspects of that Naam Simran also. And anytime you read Gurbani, the word names for God come in there many times, descriptions come everywhere, things to get us in tune with Him. So Gurbani gets us in tune with Vaheguru and it is a form of Naam Simran. Kirtan adds music to it, which adds a whole other dimension of tuning in. So all of this brings God to your mind, His praises in so many different ways. And in the early stages especially, these are the more important things. Is through Gurbani, the support of Gurbani. If you just say, I want to become one with Vaheguru and I'm just going to sit and start doing meditation and say Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. At that time, Vaheguru doesn't mean anything that much to you. If it's somebody who has never read Gurbani, is coming from outside, says, I want to be a Sikh, teach me how to be a Sikh. And you say, sit down and say Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. So the word Vaheguru isn't going to mean very much to him, right? But it's through Gurbani that Vaheguru gets meaning for us. It's not just the word, it's the concept behind it. We talked about Akhri Naam and Suksham Naam behind it. What does it mean to you? And Gurbani gives us, Gurbani in many its forms, is in our mind it's adding meaning to the name of Vaheguru. Not just calling Him by a name, but it's telling us a lot about Him and it's making us think about Him and bringing us to Him in many ways. So it's adding the concept of what that name means. So that's very important also.
I get the impression
You mentioned
I think
last slide.
Sifat
Jisnu Bashir Sifatala, Nanak Padshah.
Yeah.
So it's giving a very high.
Right, Sifat Salah is very important and it's a blessing from Vaheguru. When Vaheguru blesses you with Sifat Salah, then you are the King of Kings. That's what that line is saying, right?
That's the thing God says. God is big, but bigger than Him it is now. In front of Bani. Right? Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm trying to say. So then the God and the Naam is bigger than Himself.
Well, for you it is. If that is what is take you to Him, then that's more important. In that sense, you can't, since He created Naam, you can't say Naam is bigger than Him. But in terms of how valuable it is to us, that is what's more important. That's the context. You have to see the context. If you take it by itself, it can be, you can get into debates. But in that context, that's what it's saying. This is what's really important.
I think the statement which you gave is perhaps the most important aspect of Naam. Why do we give a name to somebody? When I want to remember my friend, I think about him name and his face comes before me.
Right.
When
So
I
that's
say
it.
Vaheguru, he has no face.
Right.
He has attributes, he has qualities. So when I take Vaheguru's name, those qualities should come to my mind. I should remember his qualities. I cannot remember his face. He has no face. As such, he is.
And that's what Gurbani and Kirtan does. It puts in your mind, it builds the feelings about Vaheguru is. You learn that He's loving, He's there, He's going to take care of you, He's all powerful, all these things. And when you say Vaheguru, that's what it means to you. A loving force who's a father, a mother, all that.
And Vaheguru is that one word that encapsulates the wonder.
Right.
That's a very important, nice thing about Vaheguru is it focuses on the awesomeness. Wow, how beautiful it is. Which is a very important part of how we relate to Him.
What a gun.
Qualities, aspects?
Qualities.
Hanji.
वही कीर्ति वही होगी ना?
Sure. So we talked about all these different aspects, Naam, Simran, Kirtan, Part, and those all take us along that path. But the ultimate stage, which is very important, ultimate part of the process, which is really important for the experience, is the actual Naam Simran, which is a dedicated meditation and Naam Japna, which is sitting down and focusing just on that. So it's we will get a lot of Naam Simran out of just doing Part and Kirtan, and sometimes while you're listening to Kirtan, you can just get into that state and enjoy it, and that's bliss too. But Gurbani itself is telling us always to go beyond that, to do Naam Simran, to experience it. Otherwise, we are just repeating, we are reciting it, but we are not actually doing it. So if we really listen to the Guru, then we have to take that next step also, which is to, Hanji.
Kirtan is given very importance.
Sure.
Japir Naam Simran. Okay? Otherwise, it's very hard to concentrate. Simply chanting Vaheguru, you may find it hard to concentrate. Kirtan with music and Vaheguru's praise, that is where you can concentrate it.
Bilkul. Especially, we have to start there at least. But you can strive to go beyond that where you can concentrate. Now, Naam Japna has been described by Guru as Kiye Aluni Sil Chatna or something. There's some shabad that says, which means that it's like licking a tasteless stone. And that's what you're describing. That's what Vaheguru is. But then you get beyond that, and then it's not that anymore. Then it's Ras and Amrit. Ram Ras Piyare, Ram Ras Piyare, Jai Ras Bisar Gaye Ras Aur. It comes in Gurbani somewhere.
Do you remember?
Sil Aluni Chatti Guru Angad Dev Ji Babu.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that slower?
Guru Angad Dev Ji was Satta Balwant di war jehdi Ram.
Hanji.
Sil Aluni Chatti hai. So, but in first Ashpadi of Sukhmani Sahib, it tells all about Simran. In that one it says, Prabh ke Simran har gun bani, all things which you
It's all in that, yeah.
And in that one also. So all,
can you describe Sil Aluni Chatti a little bit more?
Well, it's really very simple. All he's saying is when you start doing meditation,
it's not
in the sense of saying Vaheguru or just focusing, your mind doesn't stay there. You don't get the rust at all. You're just doing it.
It's with practice.
You are doing it because you have to do it. And as he is saying, your real joy comes from listening to Kirtan. You say, why am I even doing that? But if you keep with it, if you stay with it, after that it starts becoming joyful. So it starts off as being that.
Point that it says, Sukhmani Sahib says, Ramaiya ke gun chet prani, kaman mood de kaman drishtani, jintu saas war sigarya, garv agan mein jine ubarya, bar vyavastha tujhe pyare, par jogan pojan suksu, bird baya upar saath sen, mukh pyao baith ko den, e nirgun gun kachu na buje, baksh le to na seekhe. What is telling us, before my birth he was with me, and he took care of me when I was a little baby, and youth, and old age, to the death. I mean, it's always with me. So when you do the Simran, and when you have those attributes with that, he's always with me. Gur mere sang sada hai.
So Sil Aluni becomes Ras after practice.
In the beginning, it's
that's what I'm saying. It's not. In the beginning, it's the Bani and the Kirtan and other things. You get more out of that. And this is something you're doing because because Guru is telling us to do it. And you're listening to Guru, you have to do whatever Guru says. Or you're listening to your elders or people who have experienced it. Those who do it tell you how wonderful it is. So you do it, but initially, it's just a exercise. But it gets better and better the longer you do it. But you have to do it along with Gurbani. If you do it by itself, you don't do anything else, then it'll stay like that. It is the Gurbani, the Kirtan, it's the Guru always telling us about it that gives meaning to that. When you sit down and experience Vaheguru, how it's all of that is helping you to do it. And it gets better and better. And eventually, you actually want to do it. You look forward to kal svere mein Simran karna, and you're looking forward to it joyfully. It's going to be fun. If you don't do it, you feel kaj kita nahi Simran, then you really miss it.
Reading Gurbani and contemplating on that is also part of Simran.
Yeah, we said that. All of those are Simran, absolutely. The important thing is you have to understand what you're doing. If you do it as a ritual, that's nothing. But if you're listening to it, trying to understand its meaning, if something you didn't understand, you look it up, and after time it starts getting into the spirit of it. When Guru says, talking about love, you feel the love in your experience, in your heart. When he's doing ardas, you are doing ardas with the Guru when you're reading it. So when you're really getting into it, then it becomes a real form of Simran doing it. Money, exactly.
Best form of love your enemy.
Enemy? God's not your enemy. Come on.
I'm just telling you, and non-judgmental.
Sure, those are good things, but it's little off topic.
I told you the other day.
Little off topic, but good.
The other day. That's a distance, non-judgmental and namrata.
But we also need a little entertainment. Thank you for providing that.
Otherwise it gets too boring, huh?
Yeah. So getting back to where we were, you do dedicated meditation and Naam Japna is the kind of the one of the most important parts of the sadhana, of the practice that we try to achieve, try to get to. But it needs continued support of Gurbani. So it's not an empty ritual. So you're not just saying, an exercise. It's not just an exercise. It actually gets full of spiritual meaning, and that's where the support of Gurbani is important. Now, we'll talk a little more about the actual practice. We've kind of been talking about it already. So the Guru recommends doing it early in the morning, and it's usually a practice of some word, and Vaheguru is the kind of the favored word. Now, Vaheguru itself doesn't appear in Gurbani anywhere. There is this thing by Bhai Gurdas where he says Vaheguru Gur Mantra hai, and it appears in the Bhattan di Bani Chanda, Akhirte.
Also,
and there it's usually referring to one of the gurus. It's about Guru Ram Das Ji, I think, the couple of times where the word Vaheguru comes a lot. And of course, Vah comes in other places a lot.
Wow. Which I was reading Inder Singh's Gurmat Naam this morning, and he quoted from Sikh Guru Granth Sahib, and I haven't gone back and looked. Apparently on page 101 of Sikh Guru Granth Sahib, there is the word Vaheguru.
I don't think so.
I'll
verify Kalaa now. I don't think so. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, it's the name of Vaheguru is more important than the specific word. Of course, I use Vaheguru myself when I do Simran, so I don't have anything against it. But Gurbani mostly use Har. Most of the time in Gurbani, it's Har, or Ram, or Gobind, or any of the other names. Even Allah comes sometimes, and other words.
Har comes a lot.
Har comes the most. Har Naam Japo Man Mere, Sab Gobind hai. Saas Simro Gobind, all of these will come. Ram Bol, Ram Bol, all of these words come everywhere. So they're all good also. It doesn't matter which one. And certainly those who are not Sikhs have used other names, and they're still doing Naam Simran, and it works, right?
The word Vaheguru, when Guru Gobind Singh Ji...
Guru Gobind Singh Ji uses it in his language a lot, in his writings.
Mantra which was given to the 5 Upanishads, right?
I believe that's the tradition.
It became a widespread practice.
Right. I think it also became much more entrenched in the Singh Sabha movement. It became very central. But that's fine. It's a beautiful word. I love it. It's all about how awesome Vaheguru is. Hanji.
Somehow you can do it.
But to define Naam Simran as it has to be Vaheguru, that I don't believe. But for me, it is that.
We don't even have to define Vaheguru.
But it goes well with the breath. That is the one.
But lots of mantras go well with the breath, though. All of them do. You can do that with almost anything.
I think Vaheguru comes from your mother, so you don't have to define it.
Right. We are getting it from our environment, from our elders. Yeah. Well, mom or dad or elders or whoever. Hanji.
Talk some different.
Hanji.
Naad is described also as Ekumkar. Hindus call it Om.
Om, right.
This kind of, they say that the celestial music which is playing all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is something beyond physical words,
yes,
which you do experience as a part of the Anhut Shabad. But the words are only a way to get in tune with that. So there are many opinions on the specifics, as we said before. There are different, people favor different mantras, postures, breathing, and so on. But what really matters, as we've been indicating, is one's frame of mind, one's attitude as you do it, and how dedicated you're to it. That is more important in my mind than all the specifics of where you focus or what you say. And to me, the key things are, as you say, Vaheguru is to experience the love. Vaheguru is all love. And to experience love for Him as we say Vaheguru, and to experience His love around us, see that we are enveloped in all love. That's what adds real meaning to Simran. Experiencing the love, experiencing the presence, divine presence, and just enjoying it, having the ras. So those are kind of more central in my mind than the specifics of the exact method that you do it. So Guruji tells us, "Jin prem kiyo ten hi prabhu payo."
Lay more stress on this because the central point, saying Vaheguru with your tongue is one thing, but to experience the love.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's the essence of it. Yeah.
So please say something.
Well, I don't know what else I can say except, Guruji tells us everywhere, "Jin prem kiyo ten hi prabhu payo." Without love, there's nothing. Fill your heart with love of Vaheguru. Feel His love. And you know, one of the things I do in my practice, again, I'm not saying this is a way to do it, this is just personal experience. One of the challenges I have is the mind goes off and wanders and start thinking other things. We used to have a lot more, now I do a little less, but still that's always the issue, is how do you stay on it. You know, you think of something and suddenly that leads to something else and your mind's going off. So one of the things I do to bring my mind back, besides gently pushing it and coming back to Vaheguru, but before that I'll take some line from Gurbani and say it once or twice in my mind. And I usually think something about love, like, so Sadgur Pyara Mere Naal Hai. So just saying Sadgur Pyara Mere Naal Hai. So that's a way to get my mind back from other things and back into Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. And you feel the love, you know, Pyara Mere Naal Hai.
So Vichaar, one thing, if I may say, love for Vaheguru, it's manifested in love for human beings around you.
Sure.
Because God and Vaheguru are created in everyone.
Absolutely.
And there are people, or sometimes you feel that, oh, I cannot love anyone because, you know, they are so flawed. I just love Vaheguru. That it doesn't work like that.
Right. And a related thing in terms of when you're actually doing Naam Simran, if at that time you have any anger or any resentment or anything in your mind before you sit down, you're upset about something, if there's some negative thoughts about everyone, Naam Simran is not going to work.
It's not.
The mind is, you're not going to be able to concentrate on Vaheguru, because in your mind there's something negative, some resentment, some anger. So one of the books I read, it was by Birji, what's his name, Rigbir Singh Bir. He says, before you start, sit down, take deep breaths and say, Sarbat ka bhala, Sarbat ka bhala, and think you're sending love to everybody before you start. And get rid of any negativity in your mind. So that kind of relates to what you're saying as far as the actual practice.
You cannot stay in tune if you have any resentment of any kind towards anyone. So when we talk about love, it is in Prem Kyoti Prakayo towards God and towards God's creation, which includes nature, which includes respect for everything.
Absolutely. That's in our normal life, right? Now when you're actually sitting down to do Simran, you're not going to think of specifically about other people or nature or anything, but you do have to have general love and positivity in your heart.
If you don't have it, you can't do it.
You can't have negativity towards people while you're doing it.
You're not tuned.
No, you're not.
Lip service. Otherwise it is just lip service.
I think it's
Without love, it is just lip service.
to achieve there, even though we are all full of our own issues, always money helps us clean up our own garbage.
That's a very good point, very good point. If I can elaborate on that, it's an important concept.
Very important.
All the obstacles that we have, haume, kam, krodh, lobh, ahankar, these are all obstacles to getting in tune with Vaheguru, for Naam Simran to really work on us. If you have haume in your heart, haume nave nal virodh hai, doi na visek thao. So all these things are problems, but the way to solve them though is through Naam. Because Naam is like भरिए हाथ पैर तन दे पानी धोता है मुत पलिते कपड़ होए दे साबुन लिए धोए भरिए मत पापा के संग ओ धोपे नवे के रंग. All the bad things we have inside us, they can only be cleaned with the soap of Naam Simran. But you can't do Naam Simran if you have all that in there. So it's an iterative process. You do Naam Simran to cleanse yourself, and you cleanse yourself to be able to do Naam Simran more effectively. Right? It works both ways. It's a catch-22, or it's an iterative positive thing. Depends how you look at it.
One analogy I enjoy is it's like the fly sitting on the hive, right? We are all like flies sitting on the hive with all the issues. So if you try to pull ourselves out the fly, it will get us disintegrate. There's no way to get out because it's too sticky. But the Naam Simran is like the water that's constantly flowing. And as it starts flowing, the honey will just dissolve itself. And then you become free and you are back with him. Just a different way of looking at it. Same thing. Because we expecting, let me first become clean of all the issues, then I'll get this. No. We need his blessings and help. And therefore, it can reach to that place.
Right.
This one other.
Also, Vichaar, attributes of Akal Purakh are helpful when there is that kind of static in the mind.
Sure.
Think about the grace, the forgiveness, the compassion, the endless giving of Akal Purakh.
Right.
And because you have to emulate those qualities in order to merge, then try to emulate them and be that person who can forgive and who can empathize and who can
Right.
be kind,
Sure, sure.
even in the face of anger and volatility or whatever. Because I think this is constant hard work.
So you were talking earlier about, how do we get ourselves to bring that loving thought. So I'd mentioned some, I sometimes will use a phrase of Gurbani to get back. And another one that I like to use is Sajanra Mera Sajanra, Nikat Khaloida Mera Sajanra. Again, it's bringing that loving thought of Vaheguru's with me and I love him. And to experience that. Anji.
Sure, you mentioned that when you do Naam Simran, the mind wanders off to other things.
Right.
And sometimes it happens because what you're trying to do is like count his blessings as a token of trying to see his love. In your mind, you try to remember the blessing God has given. Most of these blessings manifest themselves in material things.
Right.
And when you start thinking about them, then it's you go somewhere else.
Sure, bilkul. One thought leads to another.
Yeah.
So you're trying to think Vaheguru only and experience and feel his presence, and some thought comes and then it leads to other things. But that's partly because that's how the mind is. That's the mind God has given us. It's fickle. It's been described like a fish in Gurbani. Mashlik chapal marki koi word chanchal chapal and all that. So it always it doesn't like to still. So the challenge is to still it. Now the important thing about stillness is some of the other traditions, when people talk about meditation, kind of more theoretically, when you read articles, they talk about emptying the mind, get all thoughts out of it. That doesn't work. The mind will not be empty. And the blank mind is useless anyway. What you have to do is just still it and focus it and fill it, in fact, not empty it, but fill it with thoughts of Vaheguru and not empty it. But you have to stop all the other thoughts. So a very nice analogy I've read also is, think of the waves on a water. You throw a pebble and you get waves, or the wind comes and you get waves, and all you see is the waves on the surface. But if it's really still, then you can look below and you can see the rocks, you can see beautiful colorful fish, you can see all that, and suddenly somebody throws a stone and it goes all away. The stone is a thought. The beautiful fish deep in the water is the experience of Vaheguru and his presence. You're only going to experience it if the other thoughts are stilled enough for you to see, to focus on Vaheguru instead. So it's not emptying it, you're just trying to still it so you can focus in on that bliss, on that experience.
You have to transcend thoughts and you have to
Exactly.
your descriptions, blessings. That
if you start having any intellectual thoughts like that, then that's not.
It's not a matter of thought. I said transcend thought. That's a little more. Therefore, it's not intellectual.
I think the key.
Well, thinking is intellectual, I guess. Experience
is a little deeper than this.
Hanji.
We try to bring back our mind to the Shabad Vaheguru. Again, your mind runs away. Again, we bring it.
It's not the Shabad is only a means to experience something. No, it's actually joyful.
The base of the whole problem is the home actually. So,
home is one of the major obstacles.
If you lose yourself, then that is the thing. But that is very deep. I don't know how whether I can.
It is all getting to the same thing,
कोई मंत्र है जब होमे कोई
and home nave nal virod hai doi na vase ek thaya bhi hai na jab home khoi but and they can't stay together.
If you cannot get rid of home, try namarta.
Well, those are just So on bliss and joy, some of the shabads that talk about it. Experience of Vaheguru, tere ghar anand vadhai tot ghar. So when you're thinking of Vaheguru, his home is all full of joy. So that's one of the things when you talk about presence, divine presence, and experiencing it. His presence is all joy. So that's what you have to feel. Anand bhaya meri maya Sadguru mein paya. Of course, we all say that, but we don't. When we actually try to experience it, that's going beyond just singing that shabad. Anand bhaya meri maya Sadguru mein paya. That's what we want to feel when we're doing Simran, not just the word Vaheguru. Chaji, thank you for coming. I'm sorry, you wanted to add something earlier. Did you get to say that? Okay.
It was really interesting and very inspiring.
Thank you. Well, it's inspiring because all of us are pitching in. It's not just me. I think there are people here who probably have more Naam Simran, have much more experience with it than I do. So it's nice that everybody's participating. So an important part, again, talking about different aspects of it, is self-surrender. So you're talking about home. It's getting beyond the home and surrendering yourself totally. Home nave nal virodh hai, doi nav se ek thai. We mentioned that. And again, Naam Simran itself is how you overcome that also. And we talked about the stilling part already, I think. Okay, I think we've touched on all this. So there's also debate on when we should be doing it. Of course, the best time is early in the morning. But Guru says, Har Simran ki sagli vela. Any time is good for doing Naam Simran. And the other parts that say, Saas giras karna hai, Raat din as prabhat tu hai hi gauna. It's supposed to be done at all times. But the most important time to sit and do dedicated Simran, the best time, they do recommend Amrit Vela. Kuch Satgur ka jo Sikh khaye so bhal ke uthar naam dhyave. Even if you want to call yourself a Sikh, get up early in the morning and do your Naam Simran. This is found not only by Guru Ram Das Ji, who says it in many places, but every single one of the Gurus in the Bani, I've seen the same message about Amrit Vela. And there are references to Amrit Vela in all the Bhagat Banis also. Kabir Ji, Ravidas, Namdev, all of them tell you, somewhere or the other they have references to early morning, Simran early morning. And Farid Ji also, he was coming from the Islamic side. So there's something very important there. It is some real value to it. Maybe the way I think of it is, one is you are doing it before the world is around doing lots of other things, and you are just, it's early in the morning, the world is still mostly asleep or quiet, and you are doing your Simran. And the other thing is you just woken up for sleep, so your body is fresh. I think those are the two things I can think of. Anji.
You are also at peace as the mind is concerned.
Yeah, you wake up and you've slept and you're in better shape. So that is the ideal time, but again, every time is good. So it's not just one thing to get hung up on, but it is very valuable.
Whatever as the day progresses, really does corrupt your mind. Early morning, you don't have anything, starting on a fresh slate, kind of thing. So it's easy to concentrate.
But one of the most important things, though, we can do everything, but it's all in Vaheguru's hands. It's ultimately all come from grace, all his karam. Aap japaye jape so now. Karam mile.
नाम जपना है, पाठ करना है. One thing that helps is just leave it to him. say बाबा जी मुझे नहीं पता की करना है, क्या जपना है, की करना है. तुम आपको करा लो जो करना है.
And
I'm completely dumb and dead. Please forgive me. I really have no idea. I can listen to all this, but I'll leave it to you because knowledge is not going to connect me to you.
Exactly. So a big part of it is ardas, Leave it to him, and you have to pray to when you're trying and you're struggling and you're getting obstacles or your mind is wandering off, the thing is to ask Vaheguru to help you to do it. But that applies even before that. If it wasn't for his blessing, you wouldn't even be sitting there. Inspiration kitha mili? How did somebody tell you Naam Simran karna hai? That's a blessing also. So at every step it's his blessing, but ultimately karda hi hoyi hai. It's like, we are putting ourselves, it's like we are holding up a bowl saying, please Manu Naam Deo, and then Vaheguru pours the blessing of Naam Simran in there. And it's his blessing. Apne sevaki aape rakhe, aape naam japave. Japanda hi aap hi hai. And having that's an important attitude for it to be successful. And then of course when it's going to happen is all his bakshish. So Naam is like a door. We go through it to meet Vaheguru, but Vaheguru also meets us through that door. So it's a two-way process. And Gurdas Ji da shabad hai, Charan Saran Gur ek penda jaye chal, Satgur kot penda aage hoye letha. Take some steps towards the Guru, take one step in fact, and God will take 100 steps to come to you. And we already talked about this example of holding the bowl up of our effort and our prayers. Now the Gurbani tells us that we should remember Vaheguru all the time, saas kiras, with every breath, with every time we are swallowing everything. Now consciously we can't do that because we have to think of what we are doing in life, right? I'm talking about Naam Simran, but if you're giving a talk in your company on something, you have to focus on what you're doing. You're not going to be thinking Vaheguru while you're doing it. So really what Vaheguru is talking about, what Gurbani is telling us is to be in that constant state of awareness. As you do Vaheguru, as you do Simran, it goes to a level just below the conscious level, a subconscious level, and eventually it resides there, and it's just a part of who you are. And then Naam Simran is always there.
But I think the one part that you said, although one is not talking Naam Simran works, right? But your action and deeds are here.
Yeah, they'll be controlled by
Very
it.
critical. So you become conscious that you have not to make any wrong thing.
Right, your whole life will be in tune with that. Your actions will be in tune with that, right?
Yeah. So that kind of helps so that you don't go, the wrong stuff is always pulling you.
Very good point.
Always pulling you.
Very good point.
With this help, kind of keeps you up.
It's all a question of attention. When you're doing something, you have to direct your attention to the job which you're doing, right?
Right.
Whenever you're not doing anything, your attention should revert back to Vaigu. And that happens when you do a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Whenever you are free, your mind turns back to Vaigu.
There are some shabads like that too. There are some shabads like that that say, okay, when you're not doing this or that, then do Simran or Naam Japna Tera. I don't know if kuch yaad aa raha hai ki nahi. There is a shabad that very specifically says, when I'm not doing this, then I'm with you. But anyway, maybe I'll think of it later on. So there's a shabad by Namdev Ji, by kind of talks about how you can be concentrating on actively on other things and still being able to maintain your presence with Vaheguru. And this is too small here, so I turn around. It says, Anile kagad katile gudi akas made tariyale panjanasyon baat batauni cheet so dori rakhele. He's talking about the kids playing around and they're flying a kite. And they have to pay attention to the kite, because they have these fights between kite people, right? They cut the kites, so otherwise somebody will come and cut your kite. So they're doing that at the same time they're playing and talking with each other. And he's giving you that as an example. He's giving you an example of these ladies carrying the pitchers on their heads. The women used to carry them, and they would still chat with each other and laugh and do all that, but the pitcher doesn't fall because they're also still able to concentrate on it. So it's maintaining a level of connection and concentration, but still being able to do other things. And so he's showing you how you can still be with Vaheguru and still have that in you while you are doing your daily tasks. So
At times people doing farming that didn't require much of mental concentration.
Right.
You are doing with your hand, but your mind could be elsewhere also. So
yeah. Yeah.
So something like that.
Right.
From this example, you have to take it this way: kite flying. The attention of this kid is on the thread.
It stays that even while they're playing and talking and everything.
Thread is the connection
with Vaheguru. Exactly.
So
Very good.
If you misprint it, if you are thinking in this way, lost the attention. But here, although he's talking and doing Nama kahe tilochana mukha samal
Haath paon kar kaam
sab
cheet niranjan naal. That's the key phrase. Bilkul.
So what he's saying that, so this Naam Simran brings you to that state, that door is what? Is a Simran.
The connection stays there.
Is a connection.
Connection stays there.
Connection stays there.
Yeah. You maintain that level while you're doing everything at the conscious level. Bilkul. I like that phrase. That's very relevant. Actually, I should have put that in. Haath paon kar kaam sab cheet niranjan naal.
What he's saying is, if the work is to be done with the haath paon, that's one thing. If the work has to be done with the mind.
But with the mind too, you still have a connection with Vaheguru even while you're doing intellectual other things.
You cannot decide Vaheguru at that time, but
no, you don't.
After that, then you can revert back.
Right.
Mind can do multiple things.
But mind has a certain state while you're doing that. There's an underlying state, and that stays in connection with Vaheguru. That doesn't break if somebody is at that stage.
That's going on in the background.
In the background, subconscious level, but it's going to affect your actions. If an ethical thing came up while you were typing, then you would be in touch with Vaheguru, and you would not, not do something unethical in what you're doing. You would still have something. That connection would be there, right? In some way.
I think I read another one was that, like a mother, the small infant. The infant may be sleeping in a room, the mother is going through her routine. My mother is constantly.
She's still aware of him, yeah.
So she's going through all the action, everything, but she's still always thinking about her child. It's the same way that you always think of Guru all the time, no matter what you're doing.
So it's a constant state of God awareness that doesn't go away even while you are intellectually doing other things. That's what he refers to. That's the Saas Garas Naam Simran Karna.
It's not only the morning ritual, it is the
It's the
constant.
Stay with you. Hanji. Another interesting thing is Gurbani tells us also there's another level of Naam Simran that Gurbani talks about, which is that everything in the universe is doing its own Simran. Sab kuch naam jap raha hai. Now, the non-conscious things, the leaves, the plants, the trees. So when one is at a certain stage, then the Bhagats see that everything is singing Vaheguru's name. Everything is doing Naam Simran just by existing. As somebody was saying, Naam is Hon, that's the being of Vaheguru's being, and that being, that underlying force is in everything. And in that elevated state, everything seems to be doing Naam Simran. So there's references to that also. Gawe tudno pound pani vasantar gawe raja dharam dware. Everything is singing Vaheguru's name.
You mentioned a very important thing with which I also agree, that God is basically His laws which are operating everywhere. So when you say everyone is doing Naam Simran,
yeah, that's a form of it.
Basically the laws are operating everything. So basically that's God's Simran.
Well, you know, at the innermost level, as you know from physics, everything has spin. Everything spins down to the electron. Everything is spinning around. The world spins around. The earth spins around the sun. Going that way, galaxies spin around. But if you go down to the lowest levels, even the electrons and everything has spin. So everything is spinning around. Right? They're dancing. If you're not singing, you can say dancing. Everything is dancing to Vaheguru's song.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's how you can interpret it also.
Yeah.
So when Babaji Bani says simmer sukh thaw, thaw today, tangan matao. So the simmer is the same thing which is talking about the whole thing. Now, in a way.
Naam Simran. What we've been talking about here, yeah. It says if you practice through Naam Simran, you overcome all kinds of negative things. Kal kalestan mahe mitao, yeah. Yeah, that's about Naam as the underlying spirit of everything.
Everything is this. Everything does. Everything Naam is. Everything.
So I have a few slides on the rewards of Naam Simran. I don't know if we've covered kind of the most important things, but these are kind of obvious things that we already know. So the main goal of, I guess this one is an important point. The main goal of Naam Simran, we think, is to achieve union with Vaheguru and to get past our cycles of reincarnation and to achieve everlasting union with Vaheguru. Now that's something that usually you'll have after you die, right? It's a long-term kind of goal. But Gurbani tells us there are lots of benefits of Vaheguru right here in this life of Simran, right in this life as well. Besides that, I mean that of course is the ultimate thing we want to get to, and that's the whole goal of life. And of course some blessed people get it during their life. They get what we call Jivan Mukad. But Gurbani also tells you there are lots of other benefits right in this world. You don't have to wait to get to that stage. E lok sukhi parlok suhele nanak har prab ape mele. So it's not just in the future, it's right here. You get peace, stability, strength of character. You were referring to some of that. Comes from that. And the important thing is you are able to maintain an even keel through life's ups and downs. We go up and down. Some things make us happy, something makes us sad. Naam Simran raises us to a level where we can handle those things without getting that much down. You may go up and down. You won't go up and down as much.
Can absorb the shocks.
Can absorb the shocks. You have the strength to absorb them, and the impact on you becomes less and less. You will have some impact. You have to respond, of course you do. It's not that you're not aware of them, but it doesn't affect your spiritual state. You don't get discouraged too much. You don't get too angry. You don't get upset. You can still maintain a level of Chardi Kalaa even whatever happens.
A beautiful example is Jo nar dukh mein dukh nahi maane.
Bilkul.
Sukh sneha pehne chahte kanchan maati. Gur kirpa, the end is Gur kirpa je nar ko ki
Jugat pachani.
This process.
Nanak leen bhayo gobind. Then the second part is Nanak leen bhayo gobind se jo pani sang pani. So it is part of this tuning in, yeah. So I just put down this nice shabad that talks about how one feels one who's in tune with Vaheguru. The Guru describes, Jatu mere wal hai to kya mo chanda. When I'm in tune with you, then I don't depend on anybody else. Kise hode mo chandgi nahi karni mainu. Tuj sab ko mainu saupya ja tera banda hai. You bless me with everything I need. Lakhmi tolna ave khai kharch randa hai. Enough of everything I need as far as Maya goes. Lakh 84 medni sab safe karna. Now it feels like everybody else is serving me. Everything is falling in place. ए वैरी मित्र सब कीतियन न मंगे मंदा लेखा कोई न पूछे जहर भावंदा आनंद भया सुख पाया मिल गुर गोविंदा सबे काज सवारी जतुत भावंदा. So that's the state of mind you get to, where Vaheguru is taking care of everything. Things are all working out. You maintain that positivity. There's also healing properties to Naam as far as your health. And Gurbani tells us, Sarab rog ka aukhad Naam. Kar isnan simar prab apna mantan bhaya roga. The isnan there is, this translation here is bad. The isnan in my mind is Naam Amrit. You are taking when you are doing Simran, you are doing isnan in the Sarovar of Naam Amrit of Amritsar. Each time you do that. And that is what's purifying you of all kinds of mental, physical, spiritual diseases are all impacted by it. Spiritual is most obvious. Mental, we know, has a lot of effect on your health, on the physical side as well.
About Islam, I think Dr. Leakey writes somewhere that the basics of Sikh is Naam, Daan, Islam. And I think he means probably more physical clearing and cleansing by Islam.
Yeah, I think it's deeper than that.
Yeah, it's somewhat confusing.
Yeah, that phrase is confusing to me also. Naam, Daan, Isnan. I'm not totally clear on what that is. Maybe you understand that better. And that Gurbani chant that quite a few times.
Yeah, it's Daan, and everyone.
Is Daan is us giving Daan, or is it Vaheguru giving us Daan? Naam, Daan, Isnan.
Mangar Maag Majan Singh Sadhuwa Todi Kar Isnan Har Naam Dhyaye Sun Sabna Nu Kar Daan. This is the Daan which you have to do.
Naam leke sabna nu daan deoge.
Right. Okay. It's from the Sangran, Maag Meena, Maag Majan. Maag was very favorite to Daan Karan Vaste. So Guru Sahib had defined Gita, what is Daan? Maag Majan Sang Sadhuma, people who go to the Tirtha, 12 साल बाद इंडिया जो कुंभ करते हैं वो माघ के दिन माघ मजंग साधुआ तूड़ी कर स्नान किस चीज स्नान करना है हर का नाम हर संगत तूड़ी कर स्नान हैव द संगत ऑफ द सात संगत हर का नाम त्याए सुन अपनों ध्यान है सुनना है सबना नु करदा सो आप सुनना है नाम and inspire others to do the same thing.
Aap jape aur naam jape. No, this is in that context it makes sense, but every place where Naam, Daan, Isnan comes together, I'm not sure if it's always that or not. I'm not sure. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I have to see it in context to see if that translates well there or not. I'm just not sure anyway. It doesn't matter.
Quite a bit you have addressed that. क्योंकि सतगुरु का जो सिख खाए सो पलके उठा नाम त्याग उदम करे पलके प्रभाती स्नान करे
अमृत सर. Yeah, there the Isnan is clear. It's in Naam.
So everything will boil down to the Naam Simran.
And Naam, of course, as several people have said, it's how we purify ourselves of all our haume and all our negativities. Bhariye haath pair tandog jab ji chanda, we've talked about that. So, of course, Gurbani is full of references of what the benefits, and there's a whole study of Sukhmani Sahib. Prab ke Simran to shuru yani line and goes on and on and on. So anyway, I didn't include that here, but the benefits of Naam Simran are countless in Gurbani. That's all I have. Or any points you want to bring up or discuss, Hanji?
The one thing which I find it more useful is when you're driving, you're doing something, you're concentrating on driving.
Hanji.
Like Gaviye Suniye Man Rakhiye Paav. Like Kirtan is enjoyable.
That's what I do. I always have Kirtan in the car when I'm driving. The thing I find even more nice though is, and it's wonderful, iPhones and iPods are wonderful because you can walk with Kirtan with you. So when you go for a walk by yourself and you listen to Kirtan, then you can really concentrate. Driving, you still have to pay attention to driving, but when you're walking and it's so relaxed and it's just, you can really enjoy Kirtan then.
I see that
early in the morning. Hanji.
When I'm driving and listening to Kirtan, there's so much is happening on the road, but I can focus on the Kirtan and I can ignore most of them. Somebody's cutting me off or somebody.
Be careful, you can have accidents too. You don't want to go too far on that. You have to concentrate on the driving also.
That's,
Yeah.
that's automatic.
Hanji.
Driving normally becomes a person going the same route.
Hanji. Sure. No, bilkul, I do the same thing. I agree, I do the same
But
thing.
other distractions which you get on the way, you can cut off. You keep up with them.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think you have to be a little careful that you don't get so much into it that you have an accident.
Certain actions to become our reflexes. And I think that's something we can
Hanji, I'm sorry, go ahead. Hanji.
मैं तो बस खाली कमेंट करना चाहती थी जेड़ा तुसीं किया when you are doing Naam Simran ते तोड़ा your mind wanders so many places ते I like that जेड़ा तुसीं कोई शब्द दी कोई लाइन जेड़ा तुसीं आज सुनिया होवे तोड़े दिमाग चो आया होवे ते just one line, you know, when you're doing Vaheguru and your mind starts wandering, you just bring that line back.
That works for me. That's what I do. That's the technique I use.
It really works. Some किसी ने बोली सामने दसिया सीगा, and I started doing like that. It really helps. So I just wanted to say that. It was very good.
Good. I'm glad it's others find the same thing.
ਬਾਣੀ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮਨ ਵਸ ਆਵੇ ਨਾਨਕਾ ਜੇ ਪੂਰਨ ਕਿਰਪਾ
Allah to Siddhi Bakshish Naliya.
Gurbani, this mind cannot be tamed without Gurbani. There's no way.
Yeah.
So this is the only way.
I think Naam Japna without Gurbani is becomes a pure ritual or a
So it is controlled by only through Gurbani.
जेड़े इंडिया च जेड़े साधु गुरु बहुत सारे होंदे ना, some of the more fake ones, they say we have mantra for you and kan vich mantra फूकना है जाओ mantra करो, you know, that's what that gets to, just a ritual. So हाँ जी.
I would like to come back to his suggestion earlier that Naam is God's laws, hukum.
That's one aspect of it. हाँ जी.
हुक्म कोई जरूरी नहीं फिजिकल लेवल पे हो like laws of gravity, electricity, those are of course laws with which most of us are familiar, but there are laws which work for the mind, for the spirit.
Sure.
Gurbani
absolutely Bilkul, you're right.
Understand those hukum through Gurbani and live our lives according to those laws. I think that is real Naam Simran.
That is living in his hukam also. Hukam Rajai Chalna. Part of that is along the same lines.
With his laws.
And you're right. It's not just the physical laws. It's spiritual laws as well. That's also he has his laws there. Thank you all for coming. Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
It was a very nice